Hey, thank you guys for coming back to listen to another episode. I'm so excited. I'm here with La India. Hi,
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing excellent, excellent.
Great. I'm so excited to talk about this. Um, so you're a travel blogger, but can you tell everybody what you do for work, what you do for fun?
Yeah, so I am a Spanish teacher. Actually, for fourth grade, I actually recently just resigned to focus a little bit more on my travel blogging and content and videos and things of that sort, but hoping to go back into education in some sort. But yes, right now I'm a teacher, and then I also do nightlife, so bartending and waitressing as well as a side hustle.
Cool. Yeah, bartending. I used to bartend, make a ton of money. It's such a fun
I
job.
love it. I love
Yeah, you get to
it.
meet so many different people too.
hmm
So, how many countries have you traveled to?
Country wise, so I made a list because I'm always forgetting, but it's actually not as much as I would like it to be. So I think it's around 17 or 18. My goal was actually to do 25 by 25. I just turned 25 August 4th, and
Oh,
my goal was to hit that. Thank you. My goal was to hit that 25 mark, but COVID has not been nice to anybody. So I don't know why I thought it would be nice to me?
right.
So I
That
didn't
is
hit my 25 by 25, but maybe if it's a little bit more relaxed this year, I'll hit that 25 before I go on to year 26. So we'll see.
yeah. I mean, that's still a lot. Still more than
Yeah, it
most.
is. It definitely is. I'm very grateful for it. So it definitely is.
Mhm. Are you a travel agent? I feel like I saw somewhere on your page that you're a travel agent.
I am. So I am an independent travel agent. I don't post about it too much. I really, really more so enjoy talking to people on how they can, do travel and plan their own travels and things of that sort. I'm open to always taking clients that need assistance in planning and booking. I mostly do all inclusive. When you travel, if somebody wants to do a trip like how I do trips, then it's a lot more time and effort that is consumed throughout my day. So I don't mind doing that on a case by case basis, but I typically will book like all inclusives and things of that sort, do some research for people. But I am a travel agent, so I'm always open to helping people book and find their vacation or dream vacation.
Yeah, cool. Um, can you share some tips on how you afford to travel so often?
Yeah, so I actually made a post not that long ago. It was basically like 5 ways that I've been able to travel um, and how I was able to do so money wise. So a lot of my travels actually started from study abroad and volunteering. I studied abroad at 14 in Costa Rica. I volunteered in Dominican Republic at 16. And then also when I was in college, I went to 3 different countries. And I was able to do that because I looked for those opportunities. So, for example, my anthropology class, they had a trip to Trinidad. So my anthropology class was called Rum Rasta and Revolution. And they had a trip to Trinidad, and I knew I really wanted to go. It was either that or Habitat for Humanity in Texas. And I was like, I have to go to Trinidad. I mean, Texas is great too, but they were both volunteer causes. I was working on environmental sustainability in Trinidad. So either way, I was getting that volunteer work in. And I decided to go to Trinidad. I actually went to Trinidad for under $100 because my school reimbursed me $800 for that trip. I was there for a week. And then I also went to Honduras. I, again, was doing volunteer work on a school campus, a university campus. I also volunteered at an orphanage there as well. And that was also another class that I was taking where we were just talking about English exchange, intercultural exchange between cultures. And then I studied abroad. So I studied abroad. I went back to Dominican Republic for a semester. And my school did not have the strongest study abroad office at all. I actually found my program by myself, did all the paperwork, made sure everything went through. And instead of using my refunds, I guess you get when the government refunds you those checks, instead of using my refunds for clothing or shoes or things of that sort, I just kept saving them and I cleared out my savings. for study abroad, but I knew that I was going to do that. And so I didn't pay for my junior year of college because my school was, cheaper than, my study abroad was cheaper than my university. And then I actually got money back. So I went to school free for junior year, and I was able to do that. And I got a scholarship to study abroad. I wrote a letter, so I got the diversity scholarship. So all these things, like, I just kept taking opportunity after opportunity. I always had 2 jobs, and I know some people are like, "Oh, how are you juggling 2 jobs?" I made sure that I had jobs, whether it be on campus. I was RA at one point. I used to work at Chick-fil-A. I always had like these side hustles. I do promotional work. So I do promos for Patron and different liquor brands, or just brands in general. I might do store samplings. I was always hustling. So any type of way that I knew that I could get that extra little bit of money and then still be okay at home, I was going to do it. So there's so many opportunities, especially now. I'm like, now I feel old now, and I'm not even old. But now I'm like, there's so many different ways that you can make money and then do the things that you love, especially how social media has grown. It's insane. So I encourage it for everyone to try these different ways that we can make money now. DoorDash, anything.
Yeah, that's so impressive. And that is really a testament to how you can get anything that you really want. Sometimes I think our generation has a problem with not wanting it that bad. Um,
Yeah, it's the work ethic, and I think I started working at the age of 10 on my dad's water ice truck. So I've always had that type of work ethic, but you don't even really have to work too hard. I mean, if you do DoorDash a couple hours a week and save that money up on the side, I mean, for some people, circumstances are just different, and I definitely acknowledge that. And I am appreciative of the circumstances that I had to do that and to be able to save the way that I was. And also, family support is always a huge thing.
yeah, definitely. Being able to like stay at home helps a lot with a
Absolutely.
lot of different goals. So what are 3 must-haves that you take with you on every trip?
Ooh, okay. So I looked at your list and I knew that this question was coming. So 3 must-haves that I always have. I do have luggage locks, but I don't always use them. But for some reason, they just give me a safety net. So I always have those. I don't know why. I don't know, but they give me a sense of security. And so if you have luggage locks, you can get them from Amazon. They can easily be snapped off, but for some reason, they give me a sense of security, especially if you're leaving your bag somewhere, and things of that sort. Another one is, oh, I always have. So I just really started using these. So they're compact. I guess not clothing separators, but like storage bag type things. So
Mhm.
basically, like you can pack your clothes in them, and then you can zipper them to where it saves a lot of space. And I used to do the plastic ones. I always used to do the plastic ones because that way, if they got wet, my clothes wouldn't get wet, all of that. I started doing the ones I got off of Amazon, and they have zippers and things like that. You can wash them. And then some of them you can find are water resistant. I always use those now because you can pack way, way more. And as somebody that typically overpacks, I can overpack and not feel guilty about it. Um, and then another one would be the plastic, well, I do the reusable ones, but toiletry bags. So that way stuff doesn't spill out onto your clothing. I've had so many times where lotion has busted in my bag or things like that. And that way I can keep all of my toiletries organized. Those are like literally my must have. Those 2 ones are my big, big must haves because they keep everything where I need them to be. And I say that they're very important because also when I was in Dominican Republic, I also travel with a hard shell suitcase at all times. If you're traveling with a soft shell suitcase, I need you to change it. I can't do it no more. The fabric, because there's so many instances where you can be caught in the rain. You can, and also it was a big one for, I'm not sure how true it is, but it was a myth that it was a big one for bed bugs as well. On the hard shell, they can still get into that lining of the zipper, but the fabric on like a regular soft suitcase makes it even easier to bring them back home. So that hard shell is really, really good to have. But when I was in Dominican Republic, my friend did not have a car. We had an ATV that we would ride on, and we were moving my stuff from a hotel to an Airbnb, and he insisted that we go on the ATV instead of getting a taxi. and I had all my stuff, like everything was packed up, obviously my computer and book bags, but it was pouring, raining. And by the time I got to my Airbnb, which was not that far away, my stuff was soaked, and the water actually got through the lining of the hard shell suitcase. So thank God my stuff was in, the plastic bags and things like that. I still had stuff that got wet. But it's just very important to have it because you never know what type of situation you're going to be in. And so those are my things. So hard shell suitcase, luggage locks if you have them, the compact storage bags, and then the toiletry bags that are plastic. You can get them from like Target and things of that sort.
Okay, those are all really good tips. I need those because we're getting married. I got engaged a few months ago, and we're getting married
Oh,
in Mexico. Thank
congratulations. That's
you.
exciting.
I know it's the best. Um, but I need tips because we're about to be going back and forth to Mexico at least a couple times. How we
Nice.
plan. I noticed a lot of your travel has been either in like Latin America and the Caribbean or Asia. Do you just enjoy traveling to those places more? Is it easier to travel there?
The way that I travel is I always go by what is cheapest. And that's just me. If you know Skyscanner, they have an option where you could do the everywhere option. And whatever comes up as possibly being cheapest for when I want to go, that is the country that I will choose. So I don't really have it to where I'm like, oh, I want to go to this country. I do a lot of research and figure out what deals are out there. And that's just happens to be the country I end up going to. A lot of times, if you're leaving from the United States, obviously Latin America ends up being a lot cheaper because it's closer. In Asia, that actually came from me I went to the University of Pennsylvania for my master's degree, and
Wow.
we had to do we were required to do an internship abroad. And there's a list of organizations. My master's is in international educational development. And so we were required to do an internship. Obviously, it had to be international. If you wanted to do one domestically, you had to be an international student, or they preferred if you were an international student. So we did have some people do it in like DC and things, but this was their first time in the United States, or, they weren't from here. So I actually did my internship at Sesame Workshop, which is Sesame Street, or in charge of Sesame Street's productions, in India. So I did Sesame India, and it was a good experience in India. One thing I will say is India gave me a backbone as a traveler. It really seasons you as a traveler because there's so much, it's so different. The culture is very much different than Western culture because now you're in Eastern culture. And so that was a big thing. I stayed in India for 2 months. So that obviously came from school. And I specifically chose the University of Pennsylvania because they had that opportunity. We were required to do that. And I really, really wanted to be able to do that through or study abroad again throughout my master's degree. So I went to India, and then once you're in Asia, it's so cheap to go to other places. So while I was there, I said, you know what, before I head home, I'm going to go to at least two other countries. And that's when I went to Malaysia and Vietnam by myself and solo traveled and, did my hostel stays and all of that. And so Asia wasn't necessarily something that I was like, oh, that's on my list. It was so convenient for where I was at the time.
Mhm. Oh, that's so cool. I studied abroad too during undergrad. I went to the Netherlands and then I went to France and Germany because Europe is not cheap to get there, but once you're there, it's very cheap to get like around the countries. And that is probably one of my favorite things that I did in college. I'm so glad that I stuck with my promise to myself to do it because it's so easy to get caught up in like the partying and the just like little weekend stuff that you don't want to study abroad because it's not cheap. Um, but it was
Mhm.
my first and so far only time out of the country. It was 5 years ago, and I haven't been out again. So I'm excited. We're going to our wedding venue in October, and I'm excited to leave again.
That's super exciting. Yeah, I encourage everyone to study abroad. Every college person that has graduated college that I have spoken to, that's usually the number one regret that they have. And it has not changed. I should do like a study on it or something. It's always like the number one regret that I get is that they did not study abroad. So it's
It's so
huge.
fun. Yeah. Do you know if you want to have a destination wedding? I know you got engaged like 10 seconds ago, but do you know?
No, I don't even have my ring on. It has to be resized. But yes, we have talked about that, and that is the plan, to have a destination wedding. As far as where, I have no idea. I'm I try to be very considerate to people's and their situations, and the people I love. So I don't want to go to like the Maldives and everybody can't afford it, But I definitely will take a look into and dibble dabble. But right now, we look at each other, and I mean my fiance, and we're like, we don't want to plan a wedding. It's so much. Oh, we don't want to do it right now. So we're just
Yeah.
trying to live in the moment. But yes, that is the goal to do. We always wanted a small wedding as well, and just do a big party back home. And so we'll most likely have a destination wedding. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Definitely wait like 2, 3 weeks before you even think about planning anything. We went on our
Yeah.
first tour like a week after we got engaged because I was like, we need to find a place. And I started scheduling tours of venues immediately. And I wish I had just waited a second to enjoy being engaged and not have to think about wedding planning because it is stressful.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Mhm. So, what's the most frustrating experience you've ever had on a trip?
Ooh, I've had a few. If you watch my First Class Fridays, obviously I say a lot of my stories. But I think my most frustrating. I think in India I had a lot of frustrating moments only because, like I said, the culture was just so different. And so some things that would be considered, rude or that we wouldn't do here in the United States was normal there. And some things that we would do that's normal there was considered rude or, just not culturally sensitive. And so I learned a lot about cultural sensitivity, and I thought I knew a whole bunch. But as I continued to travel, I definitely, that's a huge thing for me, because everybody grows up different, and nobody has the privilege to say, oh, well, you're supposed to be doing this like this and doing that like that. Because everything's just so different, and the different backgrounds. So I think me getting used to that was very frustrating. Just different things I had to go through. And yeah, I think also the language barriers, not when I'm traveling. In India, obviously, I didn't speak any of the languages, because India has over like 22 languages. I didn't speak any of them, but that actually wasn't the frustrating thing, because there was a lot of Indians that spoke English, that I interacted with on a daily basis, that were around me. They spoke English. But I think when I'm traveling, especially with my fiance, and he does not speak Spanish, and if we travel to a lot of Spanish speaking countries, and that helps because I speak Spanish. But when he does not speak Spanish, it can just be a very, very difficult circumstance. Um, I'm sorry, did I cut out?
No, it was frozen for a second, but I could still hear you.
Okay. Yeah. So, for example, we had an instance at a hotel in Guatemala, and we had photographers that were coming back with us. I had paid a day in advance, and these people that were at the same hotel hurried up and got onto the shuttle that was going back down. And then it ended up not being enough room for my photographers. And so my fiance got very upset, and he's like, no, we paid for them in advance. We're trying to communicate that to the hotel workers. And he's getting, frustrated with me, and I'm getting frustrated with him, because everybody spoke, we got one person speaking English, one person speaks Spanish, and I'm the only one who could speak both. And it can be very, very difficult, and me trying to translate. And then he felt like he didn't have a voice. And I'm like, babe, I'm trying to give you that voice, but I also have to be, one, culturally sensitive to them. I'm not going to yell at them as I would somebody in the US if I feel like they're trying to get over on me, because that language barrier can also, you can have mishaps and miscommunication so easily. So we might think that their intentions are one way when they're not. And so it's just that exchange can just be very frustrating in and of itself. But I still encourage everyone to travel regardless of any type of language. I still encourage it for sure, but I can understand the frustrations.
Right. Oh my God. So we went to Paris for 5 days after my class ended. Me and my mom went to Paris for 5 days, and French people are mean. A lot of them speak English, but they don't want to. Like if you don't attempt to speak French, they're not going to help. And there were multiple situations where we were like, we don't know what's happening. And they were like, ooh, it sucks to be you, but we can't help you.
Yeah.
And no, I know there had to be somebody who spoke English. Like
I've
maybe,
heard that before. I've heard that before for sure, and also even in India, the clothing restrictions. It's not that they actually impose them, but when you're a woman, and if you're showing too much skin, you'll get those stares and things of that sort. And I remember not having my laundry wasn't done, and so I had like a spaghetti strap tank top on and long pants. But that summer in India, it was like 116 degrees every day, and usually I would have on long sleeve pants and long pants and long sleeve shirt. And I got used to the heat, but when I ran out of laundry, I just had, this spaghetti strap tank top, and I got stared at the entire day. And it was just super uncomfortable for me. When I had my curly hair out, people stared at me, but if I had it slicked in a bun, people thought I was South Indian. So they would stare, but it wasn't as much. But if I had my hair curly, I definitely got giggles and laughs and things of that sort. So it's just like your experience is going to be different everywhere, and it can become very frustrating. But one thing I always just kind of teach myself is not everybody has come into contact with somebody that's different from them. And so even though you don't want to be patient, you kind of, have to enforce that patience. And everything's just a learning experience. So then you learn also to how to interact with different people as well.
yeah, I've heard a couple of, I guess you could say, horror stories about Black people in Asia and
Yeah.
people staring, people taking pictures of them. And I get it, like you've never seen a Black person before, but sometimes it gets a little extreme, it seems like,
Yeah,
from what
for
I've heard.
sure. For sure. My experience is always different because, like I said, I've blended in very well with a lot of the countries that I've been to. Most of them that I've been to, I blended in, except for obviously like Vietnam or, Malaysia. But in India, I blended in very well. Like I said, if I had my hair slicked back, they usually thought that I was Indian. Even here, they think that I'm Indian all the time, my family. And when I'm in Latin America, I mean, Cartagena, I blended in, and Dominican Republic, I blended in. So I always have a different experience than others. But that definitely is very true, very much
Yeah.
true.
What's a favorite memory from a trip you've taken?
My favorite memory, I actually have like two. So, well, I have many, but my two main ones that stick out in my mind when somebody asks me that question is one, being in Dominican Republic, and I was a volunteer at 16. I was the only one that spoke English in the whole community because I was actually partnered. I volunteered with Amigos de las Americas. They send young people to Latin American countries to assist in different projects. And I ended up being partnered with a Dominican partner. So she didn't speak English. None of my family spoke English that I was put into the host family. Nobody in the town spoke English. So it was definitely a huge learning experience. I'm still very close to them to this day. I visited about 2 or 3 times. So far I went back. I've been the only volunteer to have gone back to my community and visit because I do not believe in doing work and then leaving. And so I still try to communicate with them and let them know, that I'm here and that I didn't just come to say I did a good deed one time. And so I'm still very close to them. That was a great memory for me because not only did my Spanish get very, very good, that's also where I really, really became humble with my with what I'm able to do and the privilege that I have. I had to purify my water. I had to bucket bathe. And I absolutely loved it. If I could live that life every day, I would, because the food was amazing. The people, you don't have these stresses of life. The more you have, like Biggie said, more money, more problems. And the more that you have, it becomes more stressful. And when you don't have much, I see how people live so happily and they're so appreciative of life. So that was a huge, huge turning point for me. It actually is what led me onwards to go into my master's. I was working with children's rights and gender equality while I was there. And then my other one is actually walking through India, and I seen some kids playing cricket, and we walked in, I don't like saying slums, but that's what they refer to them as. And so we're kind of doing like a walkthrough, and they were playing cricket, and I've never played cricket before in my life. So I was like, oh, I'll play with them. And I hit the ball, and cricket looks like baseball. So I ran to first base, but then I realized there's no first base. And so I just sat there and I'm like, where do I go? And the kids are just laughing. But they really enjoyed that I even, tried and that I got on the field with them. So I have a picture of that, and I always look back at that and wish that I was able to actually engage with them a lot longer. But those are like meaningful moments that I look back on.
Oh, that's so fun. That those are both really, really good memories and experiences. So I feel like Americans get a reputation, probably an accurate one, of not being well traveled. And I'm just curious on your perspective on why it's so important for Americans, especially Black people living in America, to see other parts of the world.
Yeah, that is, I think, very true. Whenever I tell somebody that I am American, they're usually shocked. Or I remember in where was it? In Asia, I think I was in like Malaysia or something. And typically I don't tell people I'm traveling alone, but I kind of feel it out. And I remember telling somebody I was traveling alone. They're like, what? They're like, you're so brave. And oh my goodness. And I think also the reason why people have this perspective on how Americans are, and not to say that it's untrue, I just feel like a lot of Americans that I've come into contact with, there's a lot of fear. And we have fear here at home. Even as a teacher, I have fear when I walk into a school, which I don't think I should have. But we live in a state of fear quite a bit, and not to say other nations don't. They definitely do. But it's one of those. I feel like America is unique in its situation because we live in a state of fear but comfortability. So a lot of people believe that we're safe here, and nothing, and we're untouchable. There's nothing that can touch America because America is just so powerful. And we get this name of the best nation in the world. However, I know so many immigrants and people here that would love to go home if they could. And not to say, oh, well, their place is dangerous. It just may mean that their governments are not able to protect them how they want them to be able to protect them. But if they could go home, that is the first thing they would do. They come here and they do not like it here. And I always wondered, like, why is that the case? And so I can't really speak on why our culture here is the way that it is, but I think that we definitely have so much to learn from other countries. And I think a lot of Americans put up a blockage because they believe that there's nothing else that we could learn. We're the ones that make the world go round. And when that mentality is so far gone, it's really hard to come back from. I definitely think it will change a lot of perspectives on how life is. It will humble a lot of people. It will bring a lot of people closer. We talk about unity all the time. And I think it would definitely unify a lot of people. Even being from Philadelphia, we have so many cultures in Philadelphia and peoples, and they all have their own sections. And so I always say, like, Philly's so segregated. And people are like, no, like, we're a melting pot. We have people from all over. And I'm like, yeah, but everybody has their own section. And I mean, not to say it's a bad thing. We have the same thing in New York, but New York can be a lot more integrated. But I feel like everybody kind of just stays in their sections. And then when you go try to explore those sections, it's kind of like, why are you coming here? Or why are you, trying to explore this area? This is not for you. It's for, my people. So I'm not sure how would we even tackle that? But to those that are thinking about traveling, to those that are fearful of traveling, I say do it at least once. And it doesn't mean that you have to go across the world. Like you said, you're going to Mexico, it's right there. And we have so many misconceptions on the Mexican culture and Mexicans as people. And they're right there. You can go see for yourself. You don't even have to listen to what, the United States or anybody else is saying. You can literally go see for yourself. And so that's what I always say. Go see for yourself. Don't just assume. And I hate when I tell people, oh, I'm going here, and they're like, oh, you're going to get kidnapped. When I walk in Philly and I'm taking SEPTA, I can get kidnapped easily. I can get, killed, whatever the case may be. So I don't feel safe here. I don't make myself feel, quote unquote, safe anywhere I go. I just make sure that alert is always on. So I think media can have a very strong impact on our minds. And I really, really want people to kind of go outside of that and experience things for themselves, because it would change how you go about life. It has changed my life. I have a master's in something that I didn't even know existed because of my experiences. And I look forward to doing work in certain areas that I didn't know I needed to do work in because of my experiences. And I'll be able to pass that on to my children. I have things to talk about that have substance, instead of what the next celebrity is wearing, because I had those experiences. And so those are things that you really, really want to pass along.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's such a good point. I applaud you for going to Asia, because I feel like going to Europe when I went, it's not that different. I mean, it is, and I do think that they are, it's evident that they're an older country. Like those are older countries. I feel like you can tell they've had more time to get their shit together, and stuff that America still is wasting time worrying about. I think that they're just a lot more progressive, but I think it's not that different. And I'm excited to go to other parts of the world that the culture is entirely different. And I think you're so right. America thinks that we make the world go round and that our way is the only right way to live. And I think, yes, you don't have to go far, but if you're going to be a traveler, I do challenge people, like, don't make all your travel centered around Europe. Don't make all your travel necessarily centered around countries that are super similar to us. Go to Africa. Go to more than like South Africa and Egypt if you do go. Like, go to West Africa, go to East Africa and see all the different ways that people live. And definitely go to Asia, because I think there is no harm done. I don't know anyone who like regrets going to another country unless you have a terrible experience. But just in general, like learning about another culture, it's always going to be positive. It's always going to remind you how small we really are. And I think it's really important. And I hope that more Black people, especially our age, who are going to college and have the opportunity to travel, do it, and do it as often as you can. Like, it's so important. Which kind of brings me to my next question. I don't know if it's just people that I know or follow, but I feel like a lot of people don't just want to travel, but they want to travel in style. Like they want to be at the Four Seasons, they want to fly first class, and they're not going on a trip if they're not staying at a very highbrow type of place. So, do you think people, I'm also 25, around our age, have realistic travel standards? Should they be willing to give up a little bit of luxury to be able to go more places?
Personally, I think so, but I'm not. Like I'm not going to tell somebody how to live their life. But definitely, I believe that so many people come to me and are like, "Oh, I want to travel," but the thing about traveling, the only reason, two reasons why most people don't travel are time and money. That's what they complain about. But you have to make the time and you got to make the money. And so it's one of those things where people think that, I remember when I first started traveling, even in college, like I said, I went to 3 different countries in college, and I would travel with family even before that. And people were like, what do you do as a job? Where are you? How do you have so much money? How do you have this? I was bucket bathing and making and purifying my own water. I don't know how much money I would need to do that, but I'm like, that's not, a thing that you are most concerned about. Even if I was staying on the most beautiful beach, I had maybe my accommodations were different than what you would expect them to be. And I feel like what I always try to say is everybody has their own travel style. And once you know your travel style, then you'll be able to make the necessary adjustments in your life to pursue that. If your travel style is luxury, then okay, you make the necessary adjustments to do that. But if you just want to travel, don't assume that luxury is the only way to travel, because that's not. Traveling is actually way cheaper than going on family vacations in the United States sometimes. Even if you're going to like the Jersey Shore. going to, I can go to Dominican Republic for the same amount, and or even less, for like a whole week that I'm going to spend for my family to stay for a week at the Jersey Shore and smell the water before they even get there. So it's like one of those situations where I try to instill that in people. But like I said, it's one of those things where you're not going to know until somebody either tells you or shows you, or you experience it for yourself. And I definitely think that we're so stuck, people in our generation are so stuck on these luxuries, and especially when they see other Instagram bloggers and models and they're living this high life and they're on yachts and they're on this and that. If I wanted to stay, personally, just as for me, if I wanted to stay on a beach and drink a pina colada every day, I'm not going to pay my money to go to, Jamaica or Maldives or anything just to sit there. Now, some places are just like that. I think Maldives is one of them. It's a place where you go to sit on the beach and not do much, or sit on a resort, and look at the beautiful water. It's very small. It's not too much to see as far as culture wise. But if I'm going to a country that has a lot of culture and a lot to do, then I'm going to make the necessary arrangements to take advantage of that. And I feel like we get so stuck on what's going to get the most likes, or what are people going to follow me more if they see that I'm doing this or that I'm doing that. And I tell my fiance all the time, sometimes I'm like, I didn't post, swimsuit pictures for the longest time because I was a teacher and all this stuff. And now I do, just because I'm like, it's not hidden. Like, this is what I'm doing, and it's okay if I have a swimsuit on in a picture because I'm actually showing what I'm doing. But I'm typically not going to be on a yacht and that's going to be every picture. It's a great experience, don't get me wrong, but I'm not going to do that in every picture and not post anything about the country. And that, like I said, is just personally me, because we complain that we don't get this experience, we don't get that experience, but you have to also figure out what you're feeding your mind. Because if you feed your mind that luxury is the only way that I can travel, then that's all you're going to think, and then you're never going to get there, especially if you're not in a circumstance to do that right now. And everybody's like, oh, I want to travel one day. Why is that one day not now? Because then a lot of people think that they're going to travel when they're retired. You're going to be old and tired. You're not going to want to leave or do much. I mean, not saying that everybody's going to be like that, but who's to say that, you're going to even, God forbid, that you live another day. You don't know. You want to make the most of the time that you have now, make the most of the energy that you have now. And so I just really, really encourage that, this whole luxury thing. And also, one thing I'm going to put y'all on to is think about the debt that some of these influencers might be in just to show you this high life. You never know somebody's circumstance behind that screen. So they could honestly be showing you this and be in thousands of dollars in debt. They could be showing you this and be taking out whatever loans or whatever to do these things. You have no idea. So keep that in mind.
Oh my God. Yes, 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 yes. Everything you just said. I think about that all the time. In particular, I'm 25 and I'm engaged, and so everybody's, hinting at kids, and I'm like, no, I'm 25. I'm not. I get that some people's mindset is I'll have my kids young, and then when I'm in my 40s, the kids will be out of the house and I can travel. And I'm like, who told you that? Who promised you that? How do you know that? I'm like, why would you not want to enjoy being young and being able to travel versus you might be 40 and have a hip replacement? Like, you never know what's going to happen when you're older. So why not enjoy your youth now? No offense to people who have kids, but I'm just saying that plan doesn't really make sense to me. Ah, so good. Oh my God, you've been giving good advice. I'm very much
Or
enjoying
people that think you're not going to travel once you have kids. I don't know where that comes from, but my babies will be with me on the plane.
it. Okay, last couple. Would you
Mhm.
ever move to another country, and where would you want to live?
Yes, I will move to another country. I actually planned on moving I always planned on living on an island, and I actually had planned this way before I was even 18. I always said when I was 18 I was going to leave the United States and move on an island. And every time me and my mom would travel, we would look and she'd be like, "This might be a nice place," because she was all about me, exploring and doing. That's why I say that family support is very, very helpful. Right now, life changes. So I would love to move to another country. I know so many, especially Black travel influencers or just Black Americans, have moved to Mexico, Tulum being a really big spot. And I absolutely love Tulum. I could so see myself living in Mexico. But I think I want something a little different. I actually thought I would live in Dominican Republic for the longest time. And then I realized that where I was going to live in Dominican Republic, it has become very, very much different from when I was originally there. And when I had went back, I realized that was not where I wanted to be. So I'm still thinking. My fiance's from Trinidad. So we have Trinidad is not, their borders are still not open at the moment for us, but that is a plan for us to definitely move back there if we have all the resources and everything in order. I would love my children to grow up and have the childhood that he was able to experience. And I love island life. I'm such an island girl. I just love the beach and my hair flowing, and I like to just be free and carefree. I like the timing because I'm so late for everything. So the United States is just not for me. I cannot be on time. I'm such on island time all the time. And it just makes me overall feel better. Like my bones feel better. My heart just says that I belong here whenever, and it doesn't even matter what island it is on. It's just any island. I just love it. So I definitely think that we will be doing that in the years to come for sure. And not that much longer. I don't think we're going to take that much long to do so.
Cool. Yeah, I would definitely, I don't know about forever, but I would love to spend a year living abroad. My fiance is from Ghana, and I know he would love to go. I don't know about live, but I know he would love to go. So that's definitely on the list. I also think Mexico would be a cool place to live. But if I were gone for a long time, I think my mom would explode. So I don't think I could go too far for too long. Um, what
Well, we
countries
got
are?
about 6 months and 6 months too.
Mhm.
So that's an option. Yeah, like 6 months one place and 6 months. But the year is a good one too. Just to have that year, um, that's a good plan as well.
Yeah. Well, that's a good idea. Half and half. Leave for the winter. That'll be fun. Um, would you? Oh no. What countries are still on your list of places you want to visit? You don't have to list all of them because I'm sure it's like 100.
And it's so weird. I am a travel enthusiast, and I actually I never put together an actual list of places I wanted to go. I actually just started saving things on Instagram, but I find that so weird for me. Like I know so many people that have a whole list of all these places they've seen or heard about that they want to visit, and I never kept the list. I just always just go with the flow. But I'm trying to keep a list so I don't forget those places. But my dream place has always been to go to Cape Verde. My last name is Santos, and nobody really knows much about the Cape Verdean culture, and I don't either. I just know that my great-great-grandfather came to the United States from Cape Verde, and I always said that I wanted to go, but I would never go without my mother. I know he's from Fogo, which is one of the islands. But yeah, I would have to bring my mom. Like I couldn't go without her to experience that. Another place that I have been wanting to go is Senegal, and I don't know why. La Martinique for some reason. And in Latin America, it would probably be. We've been talking about going to Peru recently. So that might be actually next up on the list because I had wanted to go to Colombia and we did that. We'll definitely go back there, but I think Peru might be up next. Maybe we'll see. But those are some places I'm looking at. Even Panama as well. I haven't reached Panama or Nicaragua, and so those are very ones that I want to do. There's so many. So I have not reached the continent of Africa yet, and I think I just am waiting for that one because I know my mother wants to go so bad as well, and I just want to have that experience with her. So yeah, hopefully we get there soon.
Yeah, those are all good. I really want to go to Greece. I really
Yeah.
want to, yeah, I want to go to Ghana with Desmond. He hasn't been. So I think it would be really fun for him to go, like a family trip, like with his mom and his brother, and I'll be there, and that would be fun. Um, and there was another one. Oh, Japan. I really want to go to Tokyo.
Yeah, my fiance is really into anime, so he wants to go to Japan so bad.
Hmm. Yeah, that would be so fun. And I want to go back to the Netherlands because I loved it so much. It's so beautiful, and everybody's really nice. Everybody speaks English. um, all right, can you give us a book recommendation?
Um, the book that I read while I was stuck abroad in TR was Half of a Yellow Sun by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, I believe. Um, and she actually was our guest speaker for my graduation from the University of Pennsylvania, even though we had to have a virtual graduation. She was the guest speaker, and she was author in a lot of the texts that I read throughout my studies in international educational development. And so I really, really enjoyed her book. I did not get to read Americana, but I really would like to. And also, I actually have this book on me. This is the Spanish book that I actually started learning Spanish. So Spanish is my second language. And I started teaching myself around the age of 10. And people always ask me, well, how did you do it? And things of that sort. I picked this book up off the bookshelf one day at home. It's called Madrigal's Magic Key to Spanish. It's written by Margarita Madrigal. And it is really good. It just goes through like sentences and has you write out sentences and translate. And typically that's not, nowadays they say it's not the best way to learn. Things are more visual and there's so many more ways that you can do things. But I really, really enjoyed this because it gives you muscle memory with the language. And so if anybody's interested in Spanish, this was a good book to start out with.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I read half of A Yellow Sun, I think at the beginning of this year. I think it was the beginning of this year, but it's so good. Americana is like my top five favorite books. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
I have to read it. I borrowed it from somebody, then again didn't get to read it. I got to read it. And right now I'm reading Rich Man Poor Man. I mean, not sorry, Rich Dad Poor Dad. Right now because I'm trying to get into what else I can do with money and to travel more.
Okay, last question. What is your dream for your life's work?
um, uh, that's really hard because now it's starting to change. But typically, my life's work, I would love if I could, if the world was if I had the perfect world, I would love to kind of do what Drew, I think his name is Drew Brinsky, is his name, big travel influencer. And he goes to these different countries and he really exposes the culture. And he has a huge following now. And he's been doing this for many, many years. And I think if I could do that, that would be like the ultimate dream, just being able to go and experience different cultures and talk to different people and not be intrusive and not be, culturally insensitive, just really, really getting to know them and exposing them to the world, and not really them to the world, but more so the world to them in a way, just making sure that people understood that there's so much to learn from so many different people. And I would love to be able to kind of be this videographer, TV personality, just to and be able to do those things, and do it without exploiting. And so that would be like a huge thing. But right now, my goal is actually to get into a position where I'm working for an organization. I would highly like to be working for a grassroots organization, but I really want to focus on women's health. I know that there's a lot of problems with menstrual hygiene in different countries, and when people say this, and I say this to my family, they're like, "What? You want to work with women and their periods?" And I'm like, "Yes," because there's so many misconceptions and there's so many issues out here that we don't know about, that a lot of cultures just don't know because of not being not being given that certain education or not having the tools to know. And so I would really, really like to work with that. I know when I was in India, it was a lot of issues, and it's all surrounded by cultural base, but I would love to figure out a way to where we can provide the assistance to make their situations better, and also being culturally sensitive and being respectful of their beliefs as well. So, but I would just love for every woman to have the resources that they need to be healthy, because we go through a lot as women. Like, we had a lot of issues, and there's so much. And I think back, not enough bathrooms in schools, or not private bathrooms in schools for young girls that are living in situations, not having sanitary napkins, not knowing how to use them, all of these things. That would be my dream job, just to really make a difference in that field.
Whoops. Sorry. Yeah, that's such a noble field to want to get into. And I think that being able to travel and not displace people or disrupt people's way of life is so important. And I think that's awesome. Um, how do people find you on Instagram or Twitter or wherever you are?
Yeah, so my Instagram is at flying first class at, and then flying FLYING, and then first class is spelled PHIRSTKLASS. If you don't know where I got it from, it is my line name. I am a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. So that was my line name that I was given because I travel so much. And I also thought it was pretty cool because I do so on a budget. And so I don't necessarily fly first class. But
Mhm.
you're doing culturally based things, it feels like a first class experience.
Right.
Um, and so that's how you can find me. I do have a Twitter. I'm not super active on it. I will be coming out with a YouTube very shortly. And I do a lot of my stuff just more so on Instagram. People can DM me. I answer every message that I get. And my email address is also in my bio on Instagram. So if you want any partnerships, connections, you can also email me. And we have a couples page coming out. It's called With My Roadie. And that is me and my fiance, and talking about Black love and just our travel experiences together that we do.
Aw, that's so cute. I can't wait to see it. I think you would be great for YouTube. I was so entertained going through your Instagram
Oh,
to get questions for this. So I think you have like the perfect personality for it. You're so pretty. And
thank you.
yeah. Well, I hope you guys go follow and support, check out all the books. And thank you so much for taking your time out to do this and giving so many good answers and good tips. I can't wait for other people to hear this.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. You are a beautiful personality, and I'm so grateful to have been on here. So thank you so much. And like I said, I answer every DM. So please, please reach out to me for tips.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you guys for listening, and I'll talk to y'all in a couple weeks. Bye.